Thanks for the opportunity to just be part of your wedding. I truly feel honored and blessed to be part of this. Before I launch into my speech, I have something I got to get off my chest. Okay. Now, I've been thinking about this for quite some time. I've been to a ton of weddings, and there's something that always really bothers me. Okay. Now, this is going to be somewhere between a rant and a rebuke. So fair warning. And this is directed at, shall we say, the maid of honor community, if there is such a thing. Yeah. Nothing personal, Elda. Okay, this is not personal. This is just something I've been thinking about. Hey, let me finish. All right. So one thing that I've noticed with maid of honor speeches is there's always something to the effect that the groom is somehow lucky to have the bride. Right? And I've noticed this, and this kind of disturbs me because, well, sometimes this could possibly be true. But, the implication is us guys are just a bunch of Neanderthals, right, living in our parents' basement, playing Diablo, and then this beautiful woman comes and sweeps us off our feet. Which is totally not true, right? All of you married guys, you're probably agreeing with me on the inside right now. You don't want to sleep on the couch, but courtship is hard work, am I right? I mean, it's not easy getting married, okay? It's a game of skill, not luck. That's why they call it having game. Am I right, guys? Judging by your reactions, I can tell there's a lot of married people in the audience, okay? Sorry, now that that's out of the way, I'll get into my speech. Adina, okay, it's directed toward you. You're a wonderful girl. But I gotta say, I gotta flip the script. You are very lucky. Okay? Now, hang on. Like any good engineer, Bryan and I are engineers, if you didn't know. Like any good engineer, I have a rigorous mathematical proof of this. Okay? I want to present you guys 3 data points about why Adina is lucky to have Bryan. Now, this isn't your standard stuff, like Bryan is nice, he's handsome, he's employed. A lot of people have those qualities, right? These are, shall we say, outliers. Like if you read the book by Malcolm Gladwell, these are outlying data points. And I believe these 3 points, when you add them together, they make Bryan perhaps one of the most eligible bachelors on the planet. Okay? Yeah. All right, here we go. Number 1. Bryan is extremely useful. This is the best way I can put it, okay? I was going to say handy, but it really goes beyond handy. He's definitely handy, right? I mean, he can basically build you anything you want. He can fix anything. But he's also extremely intelligent. I mean, the first time I met Bryan, it was like, I thought I was a decently smart guy until I met Bryan, okay? But his intellectual horsepower is just staggering. I mean, he's a really intelligent guy, okay? And if you've ever been on a road trip with Bryan, you know that he never, ever gets lost. I mean, a lot of us guys, we think we don't get lost, but, we just don't want to admit to ask for directions. But Bryan literally... No, it's not. This is pre-cell phones, okay? When I met Bryan, the iPhone wasn't even out yet. He would never be lost. Like, we'd be in some random location in Mexico, and Bryan would be like, oh, yeah, we're just 5 kilometers northwest of our designated location. So, my point is, Bryan is probably one of the most useful guys you will ever meet. He's certainly one of the most useful friends that I know. I mean, he's probably more useful than all my other friends combined. No offense to my friends that are here, but it's true. It's true, okay? Like, you could put Bryan in pretty much any situation, Adina, and you'll be fine, okay? Terrorist attack, alien invasion, doesn't matter. Like, you guys could be time traveling to ancient Greece, and Bryan would land there, and he'd be like, oh, I believe we are 45 kilometers southwest of Ephesus. We must reach the nearby village by nightfall and barter for food. That's the type of useful guy Bryan is. Okay? So I did some research on the internet, of course. And according to my calculations, only 1 out of 100 guys are as useful as Bryan. 1 out of 100. Yeah, and I think that's being pretty conservative. So that's number 1. Bryan's extremely useful. Okay? I need my notes for the other 2 here. Okay, number 2. This is a good one. Bryan is very loyal. If you've known Bryan for any length of time, I mean, he's the type of friend that will stick by you no matter what. Okay? Now, a few years ago, Bryan and I worked for the same company. I won't mention the name. I don't want to badmouth any company. But we both worked for the same company, and they announced layoffs. Now, me, I have no loyalty at all. I'm a mercenary. I'm like, hey, you're not going to break up with me. I'm going to break up with you. I quit. So I was out of there. Okay? And I was like, Bryan, come on, let's go. They aren't treating us right. Not Bryan. Bryan stayed for years, and he took the abuse like a man. I pumped out. Okay? That's when I knew, man, this guy is loyal. He is never going to be. Bryan is an extremely loyal guy. Okay? I believe loyalty like that, 1 in 100. Can we say? I think so. I think 1 in 100. Yeah, definitely. Maybe 1 in 1,000. I'm being conservative here, okay? All right, 3rd point. Bryan is very chivalrous. Very, very chivalrous. Now, I know some of you might think chivalry is dead. And you would be correct. In fact, I stuck the last knife in personally. Okay? I'm not very chivalrous. My opinion is progress cuts both ways. You know what I mean? Progress cuts both ways. You can't have Victorian era chivalry and the 19th Amendment. Right? I mean, that's just being greedy. That's just my personal opinion. Okay? But Bryan doesn't think that way. With Bryan, you can have your cake and eat it too. He is really, really chivalrous. All the times I've known him. In fact, he's so chivalrous that he is chivalrous to other people's girlfriends. Seriously, like, I've outsourced my chivalry to Bryan for the past 10 years. Like, whenever me and my wife and Bryan hang out, like, you know, he opens the door for her, he waits for her, you know, he does all that stuff that I don't have to do. In fact, you know, ever since you moved to San Francisco, Bryan, I've been getting a lot more flack. Move back soon, okay? And you know, you don't have to worry about Bryan stealing your girlfriend because of point number 2. He's loyal, right? He's not going to do that, okay? So chivalry, 1 in 100. Now, if you do the math, right? I know we got a lot of Asian people here. What is the probability of running into Bryan? Anybody? 1 in a million. All right. Yes. Thanks for not letting me down, Asian people. Right? Bryan is a 1 in a million catch. Adina, that is why you are so lucky to have my friend Bryan. Now, I got to be fair. I know you ladies are steaming mad at me right now. But I'm an objective guy when I do my research. Okay? And I've been doing some research on you, Adina. Okay? And you know, I usually don't admit this. But Bryan, I think in this case, you may be lucky to have Adina as well. Okay? And you know I don't say this lightly. I mean, I've talked to you at weddings. Most weddings, I'm like, whoo, that brother took a bullet for the rest of us. Now nobody else got to deal with her. You know what I'm saying? But this time, I've done my research, and I feel very different. Same deal, okay? 3 data points for Adina that aren't your standard stuff. Okay, I'm talking about like stuff that propels her into the upper echelon of bachelorettes on the planet. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? Adina, I think you'll enjoy this. Now, Bryan, you haven't dated around too much, right? At least when I've known you. So, I think you kind of have a case of you don't know how good you have it, right? Because you've only experienced a serious relationship with Adina. So I'm gonna explain these points in a way that you're gonna understand. Okay? So I think we'll have some fun here. Number 1. You know this. Adina is extremely attractive, but she's also low maintenance. Okay? In the wild, this is a pretty rare combination. Okay? Now, some of you ladies might be thinking, hey, I'm attractive and I'm low maintenance, chances are you're probably not. Okay, I'm just being honest. But Adina, you definitely are. Now, Bryan, let me explain it to you like this, okay? That's like buying a BMW and paying the maintenance cost of a Honda. Pretty good deal, right? I would say 1 in 10. I mean, there's other girls out there like this. I would say my wife, Adrian, fairly attractive, fairly no maintenance. Okay, so they exist. They exist, right? They're not like unicorns, but 1 in 10. Okay, 1 in 10. So let's start there. I think the second data point is what really surprised me. And I got this from talking to Bryan. And I found out, Adina, that you are extremely handy. You manage an apartment building. I mean, you can fix toilets. You can change a tile. I mean, it's incredible, right? You just don't meet anyone who's a female that's really, really handy like that, right? Now, Bryan, imagine this, okay? Not only is she a good cook and she can make you a good meal in the kitchen, but she can build you that. How many ladies can do that? Show of hands, how many ladies here could do that? Yeah, you see? That's what I thought. 1 in 1,000. By my highly scientific research, that is 1 in 1,000 trait. Okay, so that's putting you at 1 in 10,000 right now. Very, very rare. Okay, third data point. And this is going to be the hardest for me to explain, so I got to do it through an analogy. Okay, fair warning. This is an analogy that only Bryan and I, and maybe a few other computer science majors are going to understand. But it's okay, because this piece is really for Bryan. Right? This piece is really for Bryan. So Adina, what I found makes you extremely rare in the land of bachelorettes is you really keep it real. You keep it real. You say what you mean, and you mean what you say. Okay? Now, Bryan, let me explain it to you like this. Okay? Guys are kind of like eunuchs. U-N-I-X, for you that are curious. Eunuchs. Okay, not the other kind of eunuchs. If you weren't aware, okay? Runs a lot of your smartphones, Android, anyway. I don't want to get into technical details. Bryan, you know what I'm talking about. Guys are like eunuchs, okay? Not very pretty, not very refined on the outside, but on the inside, it might seem kind of complicated, but it's really built on a few small set of primitives, right? And you can kind of pipe them together to do what you want. Right? For example, we like sports, and we like steak. We like watching sports while having a steak. Right? I mean, it's just different permutations of a few things. That's guys, right? It's logical, simple, elegant. Okay, that's our operating system. I'm trying to think of how to say this without offending the female population any more than I already have. But, I'll go for it anyway. What the heck, right? This might be my last speech ever. Women are kind of like Microsoft Windows. Okay? Very pretty on the outside, right? I mean, different degrees, of course. You could have a cluttered desktop or a nice desktop. You could have a separate window manager or whatnot. But they're like Windows, right? You look underneath the hood, the code is a little bit of spaghetti code, okay? And sometimes you get these logic errors. Blue screens of death, as it were, okay? So sometimes for girls, not for Adina, but I'm telling you for some other girls that you haven't dated, sometimes A is not equal to A in their logic, right? Example, does this make me look fat? Does this dress make me look fat, right? You would think there's two possible answers to that question. But actually, when they're blue screen, there's only one possible answer to that question, okay? Another example. Bryan, of course you can go hang out with the guys tonight. If Adina says that, you can be pretty sure she's telling the truth. If some other girl says that, you can't be sure. Could be A, could be not A. Hard to tell, right? So, let me break it down like this. What you have in Adina is Mac OS 10. Gorgeous user interface. Extremely user-friendly. Okay? But under the hood, what do you got? BSD Unix. Exactly. Under the hood is a simple, elegant, easy to understand operating system. Right? That's what you have. See how lucky you are? You do the math, that's 1 in a million. Okay? So both of you guys are 1 in a million people and 1 in a million friends.